public engagement and people don't want to be involved in politics.
Right.
One thing I learned from Walter Fauntroy, one of the many things was the importance of telling these young people and everybody the connection of politics. It simply determines who gets what, where, how much, and when.
Exactly.
When you look at it that way, you see the connection. I'm still going back to that disconnect.
Right.
All of this stuff is connected.
It is.
And I have to go back to the young lady talking about the women. Of course, I think SNCC and SCLC, they had problems with women in terms of the leadership, Diane Nash and all of those people. But there's a book that was written called The Montgomery Bus Boycott, and the women who started it.
Right, exactly. Right,
Joanne Robinson.
And I think a lot of times we forget that and miss that.
And that was because, Black Baptist preachers, because they're mainly sexist anyway.
Back then, yeah.
And
Right.
today,
And-
not
and
only
right,
back then,
right,
but
right,
still today.
right.
And so you have to, you can't undermine, and I don't discount
Right.
sexism.
Right.
But because that did exist. And I don't discount the fact that somebody mentioned about age, and it was not so much that age made the difference between King and Stokely and John and all of them, so much as the philosophy of the tactic.
Right.
That was the issue.
So
I
real
think
quick-
he was just saying we need to just connect all of this,
Connect
sit
it.
down and talk to make connections.
Okay. LeVar, I'm going to go to you real quickly. How have you engaged the young folks into even thinking about their future and living in a manner to embrace a future of hope and possibility? Because that's what I saw on Saturday. I saw an embracing of hope and possibility and an idea of what can come. And was that, or how much of that was based on Dr. King's I Have a Dream, or his philosophy and his imprint on what you guys are doing now?
Well, Dr. King guides my philosophy in so many different ways. I have been in the youth development field for 16 years, and a lot of my own personal philosophies have been guided by his teaching, even down to third grade. My third grade teacher had me introducing me to the I Have a Dream speech and memorizing it and ingraining that in me then. So what we have done, specifically the Boys and Girls Club, and I think for a lot of the organizations that are working with young people, specifically those that were a part of the town hall, it's an everyday thing. This development and raising up young warriors and young champions is bigger than just about this moment and this movement. It's about raising up young people who are aware and awakened to the possibility of their future, their own life. It's as simple as teaching our young people the value of seeing beyond a 4-mile radius in their neighborhood, that they can go to another country, that they can go to college in another state, that they can be something else other than what everyone else tells them that they have to be. And so it really is a philosophy. It's a youth development practice, and making sure that every day we're engaging and building the type of relationships with our young people that I think existed back in the time where Dr. Bradford is talking about, where we did not have generational issues. There were relationships that existed between generations that right now are not as strong as they used to be. And I agree 100% with Iffy that there are definitely organizations and there are young people who are doing this work. I see them every single day. But we have to do our role in strengthening those relationships, because out of the relationship, you see things happen. Out of the relationship, those young people showed up on Saturday. All of them were not awakened to what we were doing, but a lot of them came because of the relationship that they had with the coach, the relationship that they had with the mentor that helps them to understand the bigger and the broader things. We expose our young people to every possibility. Every possibility, and we have a quote at the club, every possibility is a beautiful possibility, because it's either going to give you something, teach you something, train you in some other type of way. And I think through that, they really begin to discover how they can use whatever gifts they are learning that they have within themselves to contribute to their community, to make that difference, and to create the type of future in the life that they want for themselves.
And I'm going to move to my next segment, but before I do, as I said, I went to see Selma, and I took my son with me, and he just turned 13 and teenager, and because you had those people there, I actually was supposed to bring him to the town hall, but he had his friends over, and it was his birthday. I said, okay, I'm going to let you stay here. I'm kind of upset that I did that, but I have him in the studio with me tonight, and I'm going to have him speak, because when we went to the movies and he saw the movie, I had already talked to him about it before we went there. And, of course, being the teenager he is, and at the time, oh God, do we have to go? I've read about it, I've seen it, I've heard it all, blah, blah, blah. But when he got there and he saw the movie, I can see the impact or the change that it had on him in terms of seeing it for the first time, because that opening scene, when that bomb went off, it scared him, scared me, scared everybody in the theater. Yeah. But it kind of grabbed his attention to where the rest of the show, he paid attention. So I have him here, and I want to ask Elin, when you saw Selma and you saw it, even though, initially you didn't want to be there, what do you think, or what was it that impressed you or impacted you the most about that show?
What impressed me was the fact that Martin Luther King and all the marchers and stuff, that they never stopped trying to get what they wanted to get, and to equalize the fact that everyone can vote in that movie.
And so when you think about that they never gave up, what does that say to you? What does that, what type of impact will that have on you when you continue in life?
It will force me to try harder if what I have to do, and it will force me to never stop trying.
So that's where I want to transition to my next segment, because my next segment is what's at stake. I don't care what we have to do. There's always something at stake. And that's my tagline for my show, for the website, for everything we do. It's what's at stake in global policy. But quite honestly, it's what's at stake for our families, for our communities, for ourselves individually. So I want to go to you, Ife. What's at stake for us right now? When you look at this whole movement, when you look at the civil rights movement, when you look at public policy, when you look at 2016, when you look at the current Congress, when you look at whatever you got going on in life, what's at stake?
Wow, I mean that is a huge question. Initially, I would say our future is definitely at stake, which is a very broad answer. But I will say that what we're dealing with, especially with this 114th Congress, and as we're leading tomorrow with the State of the Union, which for those of us in politics is like our Super Bowl, right? Like I can't wait.
Right, exactly.
But working with some of the organizers on the ground, we also have discussed that we will also be announcing a State of the Black Union tomorrow, because it's very important for us to talk about where we are at in comparison to the larger community. Last week, many people were celebrating our recent jobs report, but within our community, it's still in double digits, about 10.2, 10.3%, and within certain areas, it's upwards of 20% with Black men. So we actually are still within, in many areas, a recession and a depression. And so what's at stake is that we need to, I completely agree with the doctor and everyone on this call. What's beautiful about this call is that there's a lot of intergenerational knowledge that's being exchanged. That has to be continued. So what's at stake right now is if we're going to take everything from the anger and the knowledge and the movement and the marches of the today, and are we going to transition that into effective policy outcomes, into teach-ins, into think tanks? We need to start being way more sophisticated in how we look at what our outcomes are, and recognize that everything's not going to happen overnight, and unfortunately some things may not happen in our lifetime.
We got to think like Republicans.
We got
to think like the GOP and do something about it, because they plan out 10 years in hand. Michael, what's at stake? You there with me, Michael?
Hello?
What's at stake?
Yeah, okay.
What's at stake?
Sorry about that. What's at stake with right
60
now,
seconds. Give me what's at stake.
Life. That's what's at stake. If we don't have any change, it's going to be just the same old, same old. They're going to continue to do what they want to do, and they're going to continue to kill us. So to me, what is at stake is lives, human lives.
LeVar, what's at stake?
I'm going to say what's at stake, and again, like if he just off the top, is the continued dismantling of the family. Mm-hmm. And if we don't unite, and that's the household family, but also the collective family, the village, our community. Right. If we don't figure out how to tie up these loose ends and really shore up and secure the village, we are going to find ourselves further and further behind the ball in every single arena, politics, economics, everything. We're going to be behind the ball even further than we are now.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I agree with all of you, but certainly from the social, political, and economic spectrum, that's critical for us to get going. Dr. Bradford,
Our
what's at stake?
survival as a culture is at stake. Our legacy as a people is at stake. Somebody that's going to say, well, there once was a people.
Exactly.
We don't want that said.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, when I usually close, and let me begin to close this segment out, is as I said earlier. Yesterday, I took my family, my mother, my son, my nephew, and a few of his friends to see Selma, and I was saddened, shocked, and quite honestly, now I'm pissed off about the fact that this picture only won the award of Best Original Song on the Golden Globes, which to me was just crazy, because this movie was riveting. The initial scene of the movie was so impactful that it had me waiting on the edge of my seat for what would happen next. The more you watch it, the more you began to feel the pain and anger of blacks living during that time. And the more you watched it, and the march across the Pettus Bridge, and the police brutality of them chasing down African Americans like they were criminals, or even worse, like animals. This movie made every story of police killings in the past 6 months boil up in my spirit and ask myself, what next? The statements that this picture made were so impactful that it left me there listening and watching until the final credits rolled off the screen. And I've never sat there and waited for the credits to roll off, because I didn't care about who was in it. I just wanted to see the movie. But this movie had me sitting there until literally I was the last person leaving the theater. This movie was different. And it was different because today, when I look at society and I look at what's going on, the blatant disrespect for African Americans, not just by anyone, but by law enforcement, it's so similar to the original civil rights movement and the police brutality on black folks then. The only difference is the date. If you were to take the things that are happening right now and put it back 50 years, it would be no different than what was going on then, because you would see it all. It was the same thing that was going on, the same thing that was happening then. Police brutality, lack of prosecution of those of the murderers who committed the crimes. I mean, just that one scene where the police officer went into the cafe and shot the man and then walked out, and no one did anything. No one moved. It really has things boiling up in your spirit. The movie was so impactful, and like I said, I told my son that even though it's your birthday, you're going to see it. And I'm admonishing every parent, grandparent, sibling, every black person in America needs to go see that film. We need to bombard every movie theater that is showing it and go see it. So what does it mean? It means don't give up, don't give in, continue the fight. Meet with elected officials, establish new laws, and have a specific intent to help, support, and satisfy the needs of African Americans across this country. I always ask you guys, my guests, what's at stake? Well, tonight I'm going to tell you what's at stake. Our freedom. And I'm not talking about our ability to go and come. I'm talking about something much more important than that. I'm talking about our psychological and emotional freedom. Because we can have the chains and bars removed from our wrists and ankles, but you can still be captive like the elephant mentally and psychologically. And when you look into our neighborhoods and communities, there's always that fear or that unwanting to move out into the community. We don't want to move out of where we are. We don't want to travel. We don't want to go here. We don't want to go there. And then when white folks move in, we want to then disperse instead of staying there and creating a community and keeping our community. We want to sometimes even tear down our community. So sometimes that mentality that we have allows us to stay there and not want to move. We don't want to register to vote because we don't want to be on juries that can help our brothers, our sisters. We don't want to vote because they're going to do what they want to do, but because we don't vote, we allow them to do what they want to do. So I'm talking and I'm calling out to everyone to continue to speak life. Because when we speak death in our community and on our families and in our business and our life and to our children, the more death is going to come. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I think Michael said it and I think LeVar said it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And if you are like I am, then we need to join up with Michael, Ife, LeVar, Dr. Bradford, and every other social, political, and economic group that's out there that is seeking to make a change to better our community, not just the person. We have got to decide for ourselves that today is the day that we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. I want to thank all my guests tonight. Remarkable panel, Dr. Viola Bradford, Michael Hassell, LeVar Jones, and Ife Ike, Esquire. Thank you guys for the call. Real quick, Dr. Bradford, how can someone get in touch with you? How can we follow you?
At my email, which is bebebradford3@gmail.com. B as in bakery and eggs. Bebebradford3@gmail.com.
How about you, Michael? Give us your Twitter and Facebook account.
Yeah, at ENT.
I'm sorry, give it to us again.
Michael.
Give it to us again. I had your volume down. Sorry about that.
At ENT 73 Michael. Once again, at ENT 73 Michael. And basically, my
How about you, Ife? Go ahead. Give us your Twitter and Facebook.
I will give my Twitter. My personal Twitter is at Ife, which is IFYIKEESQ. That's Ife Ike Esquire. I'll also give the Twitter handle for Black and Brown People Vote, which is at Black Brown People Vote. And as far as if they want to reach me via email, info@blackandbrownpeoplevote.com.
Okay, LeVar, close it out for us.
All right, my Twitter is Mr. LeVar. That's MISTALEV as in Victor AR. Facebook is just my name, LeVar Jones.
All right. Michael, you still there?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Give us the information you were giving us.
Oh, it was just my Facebook, my name. I was just spelling it out because a lot of people don't understand my last name. But it's HASSELL, and that's all.
Perfect. Once again, I want to thank my guests, Dr. Viola Bradford, Michael Hassell, LeVar Jones, and Ife Ike Esquire. Thank you all. Until next time, what's at stake for you and your family? If it's social, political, or economic, it's Black politics today. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Black Politics Today, an eye for what's at stake in global politics, with your host, Kelly Michael Williams.